Hello, welcome to Morning Oddities, where your hosts, Colton and Jackson, both talk like normal people and don't appear to be friends.
I was gonna do a funny voice there, but
Yeah, yeah.
then I chickened out.
We don't appear to be genuine because you can't see us, so you never know.
Yeah, we
Anyways, thing this is more of an odd drunk pod thing, but go check out our main podcast at Odd Drunk Pod. But things are definitely we're getting to a boiling point in terms of I wouldn't necessarily call it burnout. I would just call it I'm all out.
yeah.
I am all out of. I'm gonna go on a little rant here.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Lately, I've kind of noticed I'm just kind of out of, not necessarily out of ideas, but just the energy
Hmm.
for ideas, the energy for even a discussion. Like sometimes even like work, like since Thanksgiving, work has just been one thing another, and just things going on, in life, and good things, like my
Yeah.
niece's birthday party. She just turned 2. Uh, like a couple days before Thanksgiving. Um, then Thanksgiving, we drove up to grandparents. It was great, but it was driving 4.5 hours in a 2-day span, which isn't a whole lot of driving, but it's enough when you have to work the next day in the morning.
Yeah.
Either way, at least for me, it's been harder to devote extra energy. Like sometimes after work, I just stare into the void. Like I have my Steam Deck in front of me,
Yeah.
in my hands. Have you? And I might browse for a bit for like 30 minutes while listening to some music or a podcast or something stupid. And and then not maybe play like 5 minutes of a game or none, play
I
no
think
game and
I
then
think I've
just
said
put it down.
I think
It's
I've said on either this podcast or on the other one, that sometimes I will lay down in my bed and I will turn on my Steam Deck
uh-huh.
or my Nintendo Switch and with the intention of playing a game, and then I will pass out.
Yep.
Like no, and not even like
It's
like
like
change like no, I'll
it's the
pass out
new warm milk,
with my Steam Deck on my lap and be like, and then like
Hey kid,
wake up at 2 a.m. be like, oh, I didn't
hey
play a
kid.
game.
Hey son, you're having a hard time going to sleep. Here's a Steam Deck.
Don't play anything
No,
on it.
in all reality.
Just
No,
sleep.
in all reality. But I just been just out of capacity mentally for the last couple weeks.
Yeah.
And yeah, trying to do even just little things like just promoting for the podcast, I've gotten behind. But it's just been whenever we talk on this podcast or otherwise, or even outside of that, which is becoming few and far between now, but just due to the distance. But
Yeah.
I'm glad we do this. But
Distance and work
I don't
schedules.
want to,
I was sick
yeah,
like I was sick the last couple
yeah, I'm gonna start
days and
gaming again,
like yeah.
and I've dropped off of that too, like just and I notice how Hell Let Loose is quickly taken over our Discord, but
I don't
we're
pay
still
much
Hell
attention
Divers
to
Let
the
Loose. But
Discord. Uh
and yeah, there was some recent controversy. However, I've talked to a couple guys that are interested in Marvel Rivals,
oh
which
yeah.
I'll talk about later.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, just been kind of in this mental slump where it's just like I just want to watch, brain rot,
Yeah.
you know.
I've it's like I've not
I'm
been
not
in
as
a
much on TikTok, but I've been watching Cobra Kai again, the whole thing
that's
after finishing.
I never I'm not caught up on Cobra Kai, but I watched like the
It
first two
gets
seasons and it's really good.
just when you think it's gone like completely over the top, it kind of becomes a parody of itself. But you kind of just got to roll with the punches and just
Well,
enjoy it
it's
for
like
just suspend your
my mood a
disbelief,
lot recently has been like yeah, I don't want to say I think you're right. I don't want to say burnt out because that makes it sound like I'm in a bad mood
or it makes it sound like
or
I don't
I'm
like. it's like I like doing the podcasts
Yeah,
and I
but
like
like
playing video games, and
here's a good
I
example.
just haven't.
Recently I started replaying GTA 4
Mm,
for no reason
going back to the classic,
other than
one of the classics.
it's an old game I like,
Yeah,
and I just
comforting.
it's comforting. Like I've been thinking about playing Skyrim again. Um, not that I'm
Honestly, I
not that I'm not interested in new games coming out. I am, but I'm just like sometimes I just get in a mood, and
mm,
this will last a couple months usually, where I'm just like I just want to play
mhm.
old games, you
Well,
know. Yeah, I know. It's
GT the no other GTA game has had the same vibe or atmosphere as GTA 4.
oh yeah.
GTA 4 feels a lot more dangerous. I mean, of course, it still has the parody. It's still a
GTA
funny game,
4
like everything
GTA
Nico and
4 is
Val
the most
Tony and everything. But it feels
grounded GTA game, and not just in its tones,
grounded and
but
it
like
feels like,
in how the map is built, how you actually interact with the map. It feels small.
well, what from what I remember playing that kid as it. I'm playing that. That doesn't sound good. Playing that game as a kid, you know, 12 and under.
Hmm.
Uh, um, I it had this. It wasn't like a scary game, but it had just. I think just because it was so grounded and gritty,
Yeah,
and obviously I wasn't catching a lot of the parody, and the same thing with old San Andreas, but especially GTA 4.
yeah.
It had this. Oh shit! It's like whenever you're actually lost in the city in real life in a part of town you don't know, and like you're
Oh
looking
yeah,
on your phone like and then you run into sketchy neighborhoods, you see a couple homeless guys peeing in a garbage can, which
yeah,
things like that um are people just actively you know overdosing on fentanyl or whatever,
yeah.
which is a huge problem, but anyways, it's like that in a game.
Well, it's. I
It
saw. I heard a while back some video on
it's
YouTube.
not
Guy
glamorized,
was
it's not
talking about the
like it's
GTA
funny, but it's in a
games, and he was talking about
yeah.
like the different vibes that kind of each GTA game gives off. Where it's like GTA 5, while it's a very good game, the gameplay is very well refined, and well done. And I get that the whole theme of a big theme of that game is the how like fake Hollywood is, but the
Yeah.
world also just feels kind of. I think it doesn't have as much of a vibe as the other ones, and like but you take something like San Andreas or Vice City, those games. And by the way, if you haven't paid attention, they recently Rockstar the GTA Definitive trilogy.
Hmm.
Rockstar went in themselves finally.
Updated it.
They fired the studio that actually did the remaster remake, and
Wow.
they went in themselves and they did a big update. They changed the lighting system so it's actually like the old school lighting and all that sort of stuff, and they're actually decent now. Arguable if it's better than the original version, but they're actually worth checking
But
out.
it's
I
more
have them on the
a
Switch.
faithful
Yeah, it's
remake.
more faithful. It's
Or not even a
way
remake, just a
yeah, it's
upscaling
more
and
faithful. It's
yeah.
more, works better and all that. So go check that out if you're interested. But but like San Andreas and Vice City definitely are games that they're period games, and
90s,
yeah,
early
90s and 80s
2000s.
for Vice City.
Yeah,
And
true.
they have a really good vibe to them, and they lean really into nostalgia. But GTA 4, its setting is like this mid to late 2000s
Hmm.
that has this vibe of not nostalgia exactly, but the person I saw talk about it, he goes, it feels like a memory, but
Hmm.
not a nostalgic memory.
Not necessarily a bad memory.
Yeah, but just like
Well,
it just that game captures
It's like
the
anti-nostalgia.
yeah, it captures
The
that
worst parts.
that
It captures honestly, yeah, the worst parts of
yeah, and
that era
it
of
captures the
society.
era that it takes place in so much better than any other game.
And also it came out when every game was gray, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah. But
Gray and
good
brown.
good game though.
Anyways, what's today's topic? I don't know, we're just having a chat
Yeah,
because
just
we don't have topics on this show.
yeah.
If we're recording Morning Oddities, yes, that's what I announced.
Yes.
But sometimes the lines blur together. Um, anyways, I wanted to talk about, so we might as well keep talking about games because that's what we do a lot.
Yeah.
Um, m- well, actually, before I get into, I don't know which one's necessarily the big topic here because they're both so recent and they're both so good. Like, wow, after kind of a mediocre year, at least for AAA games, like there's been amazing indies. Don't get me
Yeah.
wrong.
Yeah.
Hades 2, Nine Souls, I'll talk about that. The one where you go fishing and it's Lovecraft.
Yeah.
That came out
Dredge.
this year. Dredge, yeah.
That might have been a late 2023 release. I don't
I
remember.
heard I heard Bellatro's good. But
Yeah.
anyways, AAA front has been incredibly less than stunning this year.
Yeah.
Star Wars Outlaws was very much so undercooked. Not necessarily bad. Well,
But
just
just
undercooked
very
was the right
meh.
mid. Yeah,
Yeah.
very mid, and it didn't make any money. And Assassin's Creed Shadows got shadow banned because of a lot of stuff I don't want to get into regarding what is accurate history or not depicting a particular protagonist, Yasuke.
Yeah.
Um, there was a lot of controversy, different historical debates going on if he was actually a samurai, and people just took that to the whole, the next level and just freaked out about
Yeah, I think it's
that
all
character
very
in the game.
silly, but
Yeah, in a game where there's space magic. There's space magic and elder gods and
yeah.
infinity stones, apples of Edens, and you get upset because they're taking historical liberties. Wow.
Yeah. The
That's kind of what they do.
I mean, the thing that I
That's
like
their
so much about
shtick.
one of the things I like about Assassin's Creed is like
I'm actually
you're
defending Ubisoft
you're
here a little
running
bit. Isn't
around in
that
a
weird?
setting and they'll just be like, "Hey, remember Leonardo da Vinci in your history class? Well, he is like Q from James Bond and makes gadgets for you," which is
Yeah.
stupid, but I love it.
Well, there was a particular alt-right party in Japan that came out against the game, the boycott of Ubisoft and the game.
Mm,
Um, but they're extremely, minor small party that doesn't have has little support and no actual political sway. But one news article took that and ran with it. I forgot. I'm trying to find out or yeah, who it was, what the party was, but
yeah. Well, it's like they news article ran with it, and then people saw that, Americans saw that, and went, "See, the Japanese actually hate this game too." And it's like, shut up.
hmm
Far fewer people care than you than actually are being vocal about it. Um, I mean, I'm not saying I know much about the historical accuracy of the game. I'm mainly just saying it doesn't really matter that much, you know.
hmm Yeah. However, that's not defending Ubisoft for making bad or mid games.
Yeah, yeah,
And Ubisoft is going bankrupt.
Yeah, and they're
And they used to be one of the titans of, the gaming industry. Uh, Not for long,
they're
their stock just went down again today,
yeah, they're
down
and
1%.
apparently one of the
Their
reasons
stock is
why they seem to
$2.73 to buy their stock.
one of the reasons
Damn.
why they apparently delayed Shadows was because of the reaction with Outlaws, and they just kind of had this realization of we can't keep doing this. We're going to go bankrupt. And it seemed like a last ditch effort to kind of get back in the good graces with people a little bit, and it doesn't seem to be working.
Canceled X Defiant, their new Call of Duty killer.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Um,
Yeah.
didn't even give the game time to develop or patch. I I knew nothing about it,
Yeah, well they're
honestly.
canceling it. It's not like what PlayStation did with Conquered, where they
Wait,
just
wait, I'm
completely shut
taking a
everything off.
call real quick.
Yeah.
Sorry. Her mechanic overfilled her oil. I forgot to put the cap back on.
Oh, geez.
Damn idiot.
That sounds like something my dad would do.
She had to drain her oil.
Oh,
Um,
my dad a while back, he was driving through Utah, and he his the engine started smoking, so they pull over, and he realized that he had added oil earlier, and he had not put the cap back on. So he had to figure out how to get a new cap for the a new oil cap, and only to then, after going through all the trouble of finding where he could get a new one of those, realize that he had just left the old one in the engine block.
yeah, I've done that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I left it on top of the engine and drove around for a little while, and I was like, oh, and I checked, and I was like, well, I'm glad that didn't fall down. Like,
There was one time my car just started billowing smoke out of the engine, like to the point where
the
like
bad
I expected it to be like a blown
carburetor.
head gasket or something like that. Like it was
Oh,
billowing, you could not see out the front of the car type of smoke. And I eventually got it into a mechanic after waiting a couple weeks, as you have to do these days. And they were just like, yeah, a oil valve and a coolant line both broke and were
jeez.
soaking each other, which is why the smoke was so thick. It's like $200 to fix.
Wow.
So I was relieved because I was like,
That's
that
good.
type of smoke means your engine is dying. But it was just like, no, just this two things happen to happen at the same time. But
Wow.
anyway, where were we?
Lucky it
Uh,
was only 20 or $200.
yeah.
Um, anyways, back to the real news. And not gonna, nope, I'm not even gonna talk about the big other, you know,
But
thing that happened.
yeah.
I'm, I don't want to get into it. Anyways,
uh,
real news. Ubisoft shocker. X-Defiant game canceled amidst company struggles.
yeah.
Uh, uh, X-Defiant launched in May 2024. Okay, it lasted longer than I thought.
Hmm.
Failed to attract broad audience or generate expected revenue.
My understanding is
Granted,
they're not just
developers.
like shutting off the servers immediately. They're gonna let it run for a couple more
Mhm.
months and then shut it off
Yeah,
before. So it's not like when
they're not gonna.
Conquered came out.
Yeah,
The
conquered.
Conquered released was online for like a week and then they shut it down,
They killed it.
which is amazing.
Like it,
and
it had like
and
what, a
now physical
thousand active players at max.
yeah, and
Or
now physical copies of it are really valuable because like so many of them were like destroyed
hmm
um and recalled.
yeah,
It's
and that
amazing.
was a, extremely generic looking Overwatch ripoff.
It's
And
the
that's
trouble
generic.
it's the trouble of trying to make a video game that appeals to everyone and you end up making one that appeals to no one.
No one.
Um that's
Concord did not break 700 players on Steam on launch day.
oof.
He's,
That's rough. Um
I'm sure there's modded y- there's probably modded like Diablo 2 servers that have way more players than that. What am I
yeah.
saying?
Yeah. I mean, you look at the successful games from this year, most of them are games that are a little bit more niche because I think that's like a Space Marine 2. Space Marine 2 is not a game for everyone, but
Hmm
the people that it's for, it's really for, you know,
Yeah.
and it's done pretty well.
Yeah, it definitely scratches that. Well, it's much in the style of the original, an old school third person hack and slash with some
Yeah.
gunplay and
I mean, I think
multiplayer aspects, but
another thing that some gamers are kind of
it's
missing is just a no nonsense, just video game. The new came out this week and I haven't tried it out yet. But the Indiana Jones and the Great Circle released, and it's getting very
yeah,
good reviews. And the reviews are all, from what I gather, are basically saying it's just a pretty old school feeling action adventure game. Um,
hmm
and it just like it doesn't reinvent anything. It doesn't do anything like amazing, but it doesn't do anything really badly either. And it gets,
as far as gameplay.
yeah, as far as
As far as
gameplay, and but it gets the IP really right. Um, and
I've been seeing a
people
lot
are
of
really
eights and
liking it.
nines out of tens.
Yeah.
I've tried some of it out.
Yeah. What'd you think?
Um, it's time to get a new graphics card and RAM.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's definitely a demanding performance heavy game. Like even the Xbox Series X version port of it, it's on all on the lowest settings. Something that a 3060 can barely take.
Yeah.
Actually, a 3070.
I did see a on
Um,
Reddit someone posted um they posted them running it
they
on this.
managed to make it run on Xbox at
Yeah.
60 FPS on Xbox. And then, but yeah,
I
on
I
PC, anything like RTX 40 series should be able to run it relatively well. But
I did see someone posted on Reddit. It was they were running it on the Steam Deck. And they were getting it
oh
running
God,
at a consistent 30 frames, but on the lowest settings, and the comments were hilarious. They're all just
it's terrible.
people were all just going, ah, yes, I love my games with no textures.
No, literally, I have to run it on low, medium settings with upscaling, and yeah, I can get it to run like close to 60 FPS fairly consistently, at least when I need it to. But it's literally, the old potato texture joke.
Yeah.
Not quite that bad, but an upscaling tries. But the
I'm gonna
lighting,
give it a
at least on my
shot.
graphics card, the lighting is completely shot on my graphics card because it's forced ray tracing,
Yeah.
which I can run ray tracing on my current graphics card, but I only have 16 gigs of RAM and a 3070. Okay, so you're killing my PC by trying to run this
Yeah.
game.
But
Yeah,
anyway, yeah, I might
it
try out
wasn't.
Indiana Jones on the Xbox Cloud gaming
Mm-hmm.
because I've heard that's actually pretty good. I mean, it
If you
has
have the
all
good
I,
stable Wi-Fi connection.
yeah, and
It doesn't even
I've
have to
heard
be
like, you're not going to be streaming 4K. It's
no.
going to have general like YouTube quality, video quality.
And it's
Um,
always gonna feel like you're
and
watching a YouTube video, like you're controlling the game, but you're
yeah,
still
and
it still
and
feels like
and
you're
like if you're playing a
watching
game, like you
the
can't do
game.
like goodbye to any thoughts of playing multiplayer games and a game like Dark Souls where you need really fast reflexes. Don't try that. But a game like Indiana Jones might be something that's doable on that.
But
I do have a quick side note about because
wait,
with the Indiana Jones game, and it's a
yeah.
frustration that I kind of have with some games, and I've actually seen more often. I've been seeing this take online. I feel like there's a sentiment going around that like, yeah, graphics are getting pretty damn good. Ray tracing is really good. However, there seems to be a sentiment going around that there is a little bit of a stagnation in
Oh
graphics,
yeah.
and people are getting frustrated because they're just like, listen, you have a game that's coming out this year that, games coming out this year that are 130 gigabytes of space,
Mhm.
but they're not that much better than a game that came out 5 years ago that's 60 gigabytes of space. And people are just being like, listen, really good graphics are great. And I'm not saying graphics aren't getting better, but like, shit, like, some people are being
Well,
like,
everyone's trying to run
is it,
on 4K TVs
yeah,
and,
I'm like, is the
4K
4K
monitors.
textures really
But
fucking worth it?
is it worth it? And also, like 8K is just a joke, really. It's just
Oh,
a gag.
yeah,
It's it's
yeah.
it's a Ponzi scheme because 8K. I mean, at that point, you can't even tell the difference, and you're just spending extra
Hmm.
GPU or no, just extra RAM just to
Yeah, yeah. Um,
run the game.
it's
But no, I think games. I think But the Indiana Jones game, I think, is impressive with how it recreates the world and obviously
yeah.
like the opening Raiders Lost Ark scene
Oh
with
yeah,
Alfred
yeah,
Molina and everything. Um,
yeah.
and I think
Actor Alfred
Troy
Molina.
Baker, I think Troy Baker does a perfectly fine job voicing Harris
Yeah,
Indy.
from the clips I've seen, he's pretty good. Yeah,
It's not like a parody of Indiana Jones, which is what I was kind of afraid of.
right, right.
Like I think he has just as much depth as Nolan. Is it Nolan North? Nathan Drake.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Nolan North.
and
Yeah,
I'm actually glad they went first person machine games.
I've heard the first person
It
works a lot better than
works.
people expected.
It's what works really well about it, and it's actually working against itself. But since you're in the eyes of Indiana Jones, the first person's way better for the actual puzzle solving areas,
Right.
and like
Yeah.
also stealthing around. But whenever you're in a fight or doing something cool, you want to see Indiana Jones doing something
I
cool.
have heard some people say it does take moments to zoom out to third person where you're doing certain actions,
Mm-hmm.
and that goes a long way of just like reminding you, oh yeah, you're
Yeah, like when
Indiana
you're climbing a
Jones.
scaffolding and cutscenes, obviously, but like when you're swinging over with your whip, you know, and yeah, it recreates the Raiders scene perfectly. You run from the boulder, which is cool,
Yeah.
and like doing the foot traps. Um, but being first person, it's way more contextual with the puzzles,
Hmm.
hands on, I would say like where you just naturally start looking at things, grabbing things. You can use any item as a weapon.
Yeah.
Improvised weapons. You can just hit people over the head with a shovel or a sledgehammer or just shoot people. But it does discourage you from going guns ablazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
The revolver is actually more of a last resort weapon,
Yeah. No, I've heard like it lets you
which
go, like if you want to go guns and blazing, you can, but it's just like probably not a great idea, but you
you
can.
attract every enemy and also the enemy AI is a bit bad, but it's just a bit antiquated in its design.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not as naturally reactive to you. It's more, oh, if you stealth and just use your fisticuffs and improvised weapons, the other enemies will also fight you, fist fight you.
Yeah.
But as soon as you get your grab a gun or get your gun out, revolver out, and start shooting people, they also start shooting at you.
Right.
But you'll never have anyone, at least in a normal scenario, unless it's like a cutscene or something, shoot at you unless you started shooting first.
Right.
So the
Yeah.
AI is very mirroring of the player character.
Yeah.
It reacts to you in equal and opposite reactions
Yeah.
because they
No,
want to
I've
make it feel like you're competent.
I
Isn't
feel like I'm
you
just
know?
generally hearing that the game is pretty much just exactly what everyone was hoping it would be because I don't think anyone
There's a lot of
had
Resident Evil elements to it.
yeah.
The puzzle solving.
Mm. But like I don't think anyone had like massive expectations for that game.
This fantastic.
Um
Even
like
running it on low settings, I am so set in. It is such a cool world. Uh, it's one of Tony Todd's, if not Tony Todd's, last role
mm,
as one of the antagonists in the game.
yeah.
Um, but it's honestly a more fitting and natural sequel to Last Crusade than any of the movies.
Yeah. I mean,
Well,
I've
it's not a
said
sequel, it's in between. It's
yeah, it takes place in
between
between
Raiders and
Raiders
Last
and
Crusade, but it
yeah.
feels right. It fits
I've said
right
it I've
into
said
that
it on here
world.
before I think that I do think if Disney wants to continue with the Indiana Jones IP, if they're not willing, if they're too afraid to
Video games are a
try
great format.
yeah, well, I'm like if they're too
I mean,
afraid to try a recast reboot, which I'm not saying would work, but it's what they would have to do with live action, I think.
mhm.
Um, and maybe if they took some lessons from how the James Bond franchise handles it, where every James Bond actor has like the core of the character is the same, but they're their own identity. They're like, you know, they could take cues from that and maybe it would work. Maybe
Mhm.
not. It's hard to say. But if they're not willing to take that risk, which would be a massive risk, the way to continue would be through either animation or video games.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And I think
Um,
this is showing video games work. I still think an animated series like Disney Plus series that's like just a short like the Clone Wars for Star Wars where it's short like 20-minute adventures would work really well for Indiana Jones. Just have these every week is just a little adventure of the week. That could be fun, you know. But the video game seems to be working, and I'm definitely gonna check it out.
from Jindy Tartaskowski,
Oh, that would be
the
awesome.
yeah, Samurai Jack guy,
Yeah,
Primal,
yeah,
and Clone Wars.
yeah. The 2003 Clone Wars. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
imagine if he did an Indiana Jones
Oh,
anime, or
yeah.
not anime, but
And then just I get Troy Baker. He's obviously
what
doing.
if they did it Indiana Jones anime?
Oh, I mean, I would I would give it a shot. Yeah. If they just
What
if
about
but only if they leaned really hard into the anime aspects of it. Just really just no shits given.
mhm,
Just
like
total.
recreate the scene of him and the swordsman and
Oh
Raiders,
yeah,
but do all the anime battle cuts and like long dragged out, like make it a 20-minute
make
thing,
it a 20 minute.
like a
Yeah,
20-minute
do it.
battle.
Just I'm here for that. I would love it.
And then he calls to summon his revolver, and
That would be
his revolver is like a character in the anime, you know.
yeah.
And
Just
the whip is all his equipment is sentient in the anime.
of course. Yeah,
He talks to him.
yeah. I would be down for that. Yeah.
He talks to his
Um.
hat to get clues. Like Dora.
Like Dora the
No.
Explorer. Yeah,
Make it like Dora. No.
turns to
Um,
turns to the turns to the camera halfway through and goes,
mhm.
"Hey, is there a Nazi around here?"
Yeah. That's the interactive gameplay we
Pauses.
want. Yeah.
Where is he? Is he behind that barrel?
Yeah.
Pauses, waits for the audience.
And then they do the
Uh,
swipe or no swipe. Okay, that's
yeah,
enough. Anyways.
swipe or no swipe.
Yeah.
Nazi no not
Nazi,
seeing.
no. That's enough. That's enough. Um, and but yeah, the Indiana Jones game is a faithful adaptation. You just have to have a pretty high-end setup to run it, or
Yeah,
just run it on your Xbox, I guess, or cloud. But otherwise, you're kind of screwed. You're not going to be,
yeah.
yeah, Steam Deck, like you said. Yeah, you could get the frames, but and this
Uh,
is kind of a consequence of graphic design in a lot of AAA games. It is so graphics intensive and high resolution and the ray tracing and everything and the DLS, the upscaling. Um, there's not a lot of workarounds to make it run on like
it's
games used to run
yeah,
on almost, well, not every system, but games used to run mostly the same across the generation.
yeah.
I mean, PC's always been the outlier because PC's always ahead a couple generations within the
It's
same
and
year. But
there are I mean
uh,
don't get me wrong, there are games that have come out that I'm just like that looks amazing and I totally understand why.
forced ray
But
tracing,
there are some
you
games
agree
that
with
have come
that
out
for the
more
artistic vision
recently
of the game? Because that's
like
the artistic vision for it to look
yeah,
almost as realistic as the movie.
yeah.
Like, I
And
understand that, but
there are games that have come out like again one of I think I've mentioned this is one of my frustrations with Starfield is just that it's a
Mhm.
it's a demanding game to run, but nothing about the graphics or what's actually going on screen and all that
Mm.
convinces me that it actually has to be
Does
that
it?
demanding. It's just the way they built the
Right.
game and the textures and all that shit is just it just
Yeah.
is demanding to run and but it didn't have to be.
But what I'm saying, I guess what I'm really trying to say is, if you can, download it and run it if you think your system can handle. Yeah,
Yeah,
if you have a 4090, if you're some rich kid with a 4090, super and 64 gigs of RAM, something ridiculously overpowered, and
yeah,
the 7800 3D XT or whatever Ryzen. Yeah, yeah, get the game and run it at ultra settings and enjoy it for what it is. But I think that is kind of that is the boundary
yeah,
for graphical and progression in modern gaming, whether you can afford it or not,
yeah,
really.
and that's
Because even like uh companies can't just Microsoft and Sony and even Microsoft, they sell Xbox, they lose money on Xboxes.
hmm yeah,
Right. And which is why they're kind of actually phasing Xbox out and just focusing more on Game Pass and accessories
hmm
and
it's
I heard maybe a portable system like to compete with like the ROG Ally and the Switch, I mean the Steam Deck.
yeah, I mean it's one of the things that
Um
I still like about Nintendo and the Switch, and I'm definitely interested in whatever they're doing next. Is that they do at the very least, despite controversies around how Nintendo's been handling some stuff, um, they
emulation.
yeah, they do make a point to make sure every first party Nintendo game, at the very least, that comes out on their console runs on their console.
Runs on their console and it keeps the artistic direction. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah. And now
I
we're getting
mean,
at the
yeah.
point like with the PS5 Pro is like $600, and like with the stand and a controller and a game, it's like almost 800.
Yeah.
Um, and for a marginally better, like you can get maybe 10 extra FPS on ray traced games, and
Yeah.
like just they squeeze as much as they can in there while trying to keep a relatively sane
I
price.
mean,
But I
I
think
think
like
I
the
think
PS6 and whatever the next Xbox is or whatever, that's going to be the turning point where do consoles just become not even necessarily low-end gaming PCs, but just like a consumer gaming PC at this point?
yeah,
Like a,
I mean, I don't know. Again, I it's not that I don't
do
appreciate
you see a world where like a new PlayStation sells for like $700?
it's like it's not that I don't appreciate the
Just so they can run the
improvements
games
in
that
graphics
developers
that
want to
have
make.
it's not that I don't appreciate the graphics that have been coming out. There's been some really impressive stuff, but it's just like you look at games that have come out like say Tears of the Kingdom last year, which is a fantastic game,
Hmm.
um or a lot of indie games that come out, or even games like Baldur's Gate 3 last year, which is graphically very impressive, but
Hmm.
it's not like unaccessible if you don't
Yeah, it's
have
not Unreal
good,
Engine
really, really
5
amazing hardware.
hyper realistic.
And it's these games are showing it's just like, do we really need like is it really in the best interest of gamers to have these games that require unaccessible hardware for some people? Because one of the things that
Mhm.
I think my one of my personal opinions about gaming is that it should be accessible to as many people as possible.
Yeah,
And which is what
I
like when the
agree.
PS5 came out, one of the things that was so frustrating about the scalpers that were
Oh yeah, it was
handling that
really
was
bad.
it was making this thing unaccessible to so many people.
Hmm.
And
Yeah,
it's just like, man,
people just want to
it should be
play
accessible.
your games.
Um, you should be able to play the games you want to play if you're into gaming. And
Hmm.
having to drop seven, eight
Now,
hundred plus dollars just to be able to run new games is like,
right.
ugh, oof.
No, getting a gaming, going into gaming PCs, that should be a hobby, but a console should be something anyone could afford,
Yeah.
on But anyways,
And that's
uh
I am curious about when Nintendo does announce their next the the way they've been putting it, because they've been very hush hush about it, but the way they've described it is the the sequel or the next in line to the Switch. They're not describing it as the Switch 2. They're the the predecessor, or not predecessor, but um the next console after the Switch. I'm wondering how they're going to price it, because one of the things Nintendo
be interesting.
is good at is pricing their consoles at what's considered affordable for like a family console.
Hmm.
And I'm not expecting it. I mean, when the Switch
Nintendo's
came,
always been the family console.
yeah, and when the Switch came out, it was $300. The Switch OLED's 350. Um, they've not raised the price on those, which is nice. The Switch Lite, hell, I think that's like 250, something like that. Um, and I'm not expecting it to be that, but like
Yeah.
I think $400 would be probably what my guess is what they might aim at. But if the next Nintendo console comes out and it's $600 just like the PS5, it's like, what are you doing, Nintendo?
I mean, I heard it's well, I don't know what kind of GPU or whatever it's gonna have. But anyways,
Yeah.
um I also well, we've been talking about graphics on like the high end on high, realism, fidelity, ray tracing, all that. But
Hmm.
I also what I most appreciate about a game, and this this can determine this can mean a game is hard or easy to run. It doesn't matter.
Hmm.
Um, whether it's graphically demanding or not, but the art direction of a game.
Yeah.
Does it sell you its world? Is it interesting? Is it fun to look at? Do you enjoy just the vibe of the game? And that
I
also
mean,
goes along with the soundtrack
again, I
and
think the
voice
master.
acting,
I mean, there's some
gameplay.
really good indie games that do that really well, but I think the I've already mentioned it. I feel like I'm patting Nintendo too much here because Nintendo is not perfect. Um, but the masterclass example in recent years has been the Legend of Zelda games
Oh yeah, I
with
mean,
I mean,
of course, with Breath of the Wild, and also even like Link's Awakening or the new
mhm,
Zelda, where he
um,
plays Zelda.
Echoes of
What
Wisdom.
was that? Echoes of Wisdom. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um.
just really, really, really well done. Like Tears of the Kingdom is fantastic looking, and it's running on hardware that is a little bit better than an Xbox 360.
Yeah. Well, because it has great art direction.
Yeah, well, exactly. It's just really good art direction, really good sound and sound design and music,
Hmm.
and it just, yeah,
Yeah, I mean, it looks like a like with the cell shading, but it's also kind of like an oil painting, but it's a vibrant
yeah.
world. It's
Or some indie games,
everything.
Hades 2 has
Yeah, I wanted to
excellent art
mention
direction.
Hades. I've been playing a lot of Hades lately.
Yeah,
It's an amazing action roguelike.
yeah.
Um,
Anyway,
great progression.
yeah,
Anyways, I love the art design there.
yeah.
Everything's like hand drawn, bright, vibrant.
Anyway, I gotta go in a minute here. Go make
Okay.
some dinner. Anything else you want to bring up?
Um, real quick, I know 90% of this episode's been about video games and a little bit of podcasting blues, but also, um, I saw Wicked
Oh yeah, yeah, I did too.
last weekend and
It's,
I enjoyed it.
it's good.
Like
Yeah.
it is full on musical, and
I
it's
mean, yeah,
that's I mean, that's
it is a
what it
Broadway
is,
musical.
a
Yeah.
Broadway musical, but like the movie version
Yeah.
doesn't doesn't remove any, or at least as far as I know, remove songs. Maybe it does, but it
No.
goes from one song to the next. Like there's a
Yeah.
little bit in between dialogue and into the
It
next. Like, but it is great. It's fun. I
yeah.
enjoyed the world.
Um
It was a good
the
time.
the song's really good. Cynthia Erivo, who plays
Oh, she's wonderful.
Elphaba, is really good. Ariana Grande was better than I expected her to be. I
Oh yeah,
mean, not
Ariana Grande
not that
was
I
great.
expected
I
her
mean,
to be bad, but
she
I don't.
she was the funniest
But
character in the
she
movie.
was
I mean, she's
fantastic in it.
the
I
most
think
meme-worthy character, Glinda.
if I had to say one bad thing, and it's not actually a bad thing about the movie, it's just I think it was dishonest marketing they did not market it as
Part one.
part one.
Yeah,
They announced it
it's
was going to be a
almost a
two-part
3-hour
movie.
movie.
Like they announced it was going to be a two-part movie like way back in 2022 when they announced the movie, and then they did
Hmm.
not market it that way at
They
all,
did
which I
not
thought was
advertise.
dishonest. However, I think it paid off. I think it would be a worse movie if they had
And
crammed it
this
all
is
into one
coming
movie.
from someone that really doesn't like musicals. Well, it's okay. It's not that I don't like musicals, but I'm it's hard to find me in the mood where I seek out to watch a musical. I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah, let's sing along to however, I do appreciate a good musical, and this just really sells you its world, its real sets. Uh,
Yeah. Oh,
everyone that has a
the
fun job.
costume design and the
The
set
costume
design,
design's great.
and when they do use CGI, because there's plenty of CGI in it, it's well used
Animals, yeah.
CGI.
Flying monkey, yeah. And it's
And
faithful to Wizard of Oz, so it's
yeah,
very, nostalgic in that
I can
way.
say this. I've seen the musical live before. It's
Hmm.
very good adaptation of that. I also, again, so I think one of the problems I sometimes have with film adaptations of Broadway musicals is because um, film has two things. Film has to take its time with scenes that a musical or a stage performance can kind of skip over. A stage
Hmm.
performance can get away with just telling you
Yeah.
rather than a film when it's good has to show you, so it takes longer to get through certain sequences. And also stage performances usually have intermissions, and that creates, I think, often uh film
We're
adaptations
in the
of
intermission.
of yeah, film adaptations of Broadway musicals, I think, often are very poorly paced.
Oh yeah.
This does not have that problem
No,
because
I mean
they took the
it was a
first
quick 240, two
yeah,
hours and 40
they
minutes.
took
I
the
mean,
first act of the movie or of the musical before the intermission and made it into a almost 3 hour movie, which meant they
yeah.
took their time with the scenes that needed to take their time, and the the story when it gets up to what would be the intermission, that's a really good moment in the musical that
It
just acts like a climax,
it
like you would
never
have in a
feels like,
movie. Like
well,
I think
sometimes it
it's
feels like this, but it never truly feels like they're singing the plot.
yeah. I think it's
It
I just think
it
it's good.
feels like a Broadway musical, even though it's a theatrical reproduction. I mean,
Yeah.
production.
Yeah. And
But
I think it's really good. Jeff Goldblum is the wizard.
oh, he's great. I
He's
mean, he's always
fantastic. Peter Dinklage is the goat.
he is the goat.
Yeah. Um, which I didn't realize until after I saw the movie, but it's not. He is a CGI goat, so it's if you didn't realize that was Peter Dinklage, that's okay. Peter Dinklage doesn't look like that in real life.
Yeah.
Um,
Michelle Yeoh as Madame
oh yeah, yeah,
Morrible.
yeah.
I
She's
don't know
really
her
good.
name.
It's just good. It's a good movie. I'll definitely see the part two when it comes out.
And Ethan Slater, the guy who played SpongeBob in the SpongeBob musical.
Oh,
And
which character is he?
he's actually dating Ariana Grande. Uh he was Bach Woodsman, the
Oh,
Munchkin.
yeah, 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 yeah.
I knew I recognized him.
He's SpongeBob.
Yeah. But no, yeah, I thought it was great fun. And it's funny, this big guy with a huge biker beard was sitting next to me, and there's a couple times because he obviously was also dragged there. I wasn't dragged there. I wanted to go. I was excited.
Yeah,
But he was dragged there and he was just like, leaving out huge sighs, like, but then even he ended up having a fun time. We all did.
yeah. Everyone in the theater seemed to have
Um,
a good time. I was surprised and relieved that no one in the theater tried singing along
right.
because I've heard some people say that their experience singing in the theater was that there were people singing along, and don't sing along
Well,
in the movie
let us
theater
just enjoy
to a
the movie.
musical. Just
Yeah.
don't do that. That's a dick move. Nobody wants that. Lip sync to it. Move your mouth to the words. Don't actually sing out loud. But nobody did, which was good.
Dwayne Johnson says moviegoers have paid for a ticket and thus have the right to sing out loud during a film screening.
Yeah, well, Dwayne Johnson is a cartoon
Moana 2.
character. Um,
I'm gonna wait for Moana 2 to go to streaming, honestly.
yeah.
Uh,
I mean, it's
Anyways,
doing well in theaters. I've not heard
yeah, it
much
actually is
about
doing
it.
well. I
People
heard
seem to
it's
like it.
good. I
Yeah.
mean, I heard it's multiple episodes of a series stitched together, and Disney, you know,
Yeah.
because didn't it do so well with Wish or whatever it was called,
Oh
and
yeah, Wish. Yeah.
Elemental didn't do so well.
Yeah,
Inside
even
Out
though
2 was a huge hit.
Inside Out 2 was big hit, very good.
Yeah,
Elemental's good.
over a billion.
I can
I liked
recommend
Elemental.
Elemental. Um,
I saw half of it.
yeah, I've not seen Wish.
Me
I've
neither.
heard,
It's the most uninteresting looking one.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I've heard some not very nice things about it. I'm not going to repeat them here without me having seen it myself.
No.
But yeah, it does just look very uninteresting to me.
No, but Disney, let's just throw out an obligatory sequel to a successful movie we made in the past. Oh, let's keep making live action remakes. Oh, and
Ah,
this now
just
DreamWorks is even doing it. How to Train Your Dragon remake,
man, I
Gladiator 2, like so many
I've heard
sequels and
Gladiator 2 is
remakes.
not bad
I heard
actually.
it
Yeah.
is good.
Yeah, buddy of mine
Bombshell
who
and
my buddy of mine saw it and he is generally I trust his opinion on
mhm,
cool action movies because he's the one that recommended Dread and he really likes Mad Max and all those movies, so I get along with him on
mhm.
those. And he said it was really good. Um,
No, I've heard good things about it,
yeah. But
but
some like the How to Train Your Dragon, I'm not saying it looks bad. It doesn't look bad. I did finally actually watch the trailer.
mhm,
It doesn't look bad, and I respect that they're getting Gerard Butler to play the dad
yeah.
again. I respect that they're just going all in on the silly Viking costumes, but I am so uninterested in it. Just,
It's the live action remake version of a
just,
remake of it's a live action remake of like version of Silent Hill 2 remake or Resident Evil 4 remake where you literally
yeah,
just put a like even the CGI is still just CGI. You know, the dragons look like just the
yeah,
same, just better graphics now, but
yeah.
it's a slightly
It's
different
at least
graphic
they have real people in there
design,
versus
but
like the Lion King remake or quote unquote live action remake. There's nothing live action about that. It's all CGI.
it's an animated film.
It is an animated film. It's just a different style of animation. I don't know what the hell
Yeah.
they're talking about. There's the Mufasa movie that's coming out, which I'm
Or is that
also
because they filmed on location? Is that what keeps it from being an
I don't
anime?
know. There's the Mufasa film that's coming out, which also I'm very uninterested in.
That well, I'm actually
But
a
but
bit more interested in that than
at least it's an original story
yeah.
versus the live action Lion King, which okay, the live action Lion King,
We
I
like original
I didn't
stories.
think was like awful. It just also, if you've seen the original movie is the same plot, almost shot for shot, but better.
It's like an uncanny nature documentary.
Yeah, like the live action. Like if you have never seen the original Lion King and you watch the live action remake, I don't think you would hate it. It's
Mhm.
just it's the same movie with the same plot. They didn't do anything different of it. It's just not as good.
Yep.
Is all. At least Mufasa it looks like it's a new story, so maybe that'll
Yeah.
make it better. I don't know.
Anywho, uh, if we go any longer, we will have to retitle this as the Odd Drunk Pod episode.
Yeah,
So, or we could break this up in a couple, whatever we decide to do. I don't even know how long this has gone. Um, but
yeah. It's, we'll
anyways,
we'll call it there.
we'll call it there. Uh, good morning and have a great day, or whenever you're listening to this, whether you're on a commute or you're with uh, your friends, but you're listening to a podcast by yourself in the corner at the bar,
Yeah,
which is something I haven't done.
definitely. I've not
I've definitely not
sat
have
in the
done
corner of
that.
a bar on my phone by myself.
Are you listening at work and disobeying your boss? Are you sticking it to the man? You know, whatever you're doing. Um, see you next week.
So yeah.